It all starts with a demonstration of Michael, an ordinary office worker. One day, they were visited by a delegation of an Arab prince, as they want a pool that can accommodate a lot of people. And after minor adjustments, the project is accepted. After completing his work, Michael visits the pool. After all, his son is performing there today. However, Michael fails to find his son the first time, to the surprise of adults. There's also his swimming coach, Bill, who cheers the kid on in every possible way. After all, Michael really needs to talk on the phone for his son's place of support. And Michael orders God to provide a remote control that can control anything. Wanting to clear his head, Michael leaves for the city. But all the shops are already closed, except for the furniture house. Walking through the hangar, he notices a rather pronounced door and immediately goes there. To his surprise, it's pretty dark in here. Morty is waiting for him at the end of the hallway, and he has what Michael is looking for. After a couple of minutes, Morty pushes back the shelf where the remote control was waiting for them. Martin adds that it's free for Michael, and even though Michael starts to suspect something, he still returns home with a brand new remote control that easily turns on the TV. While his wife comes out behind him, asking a lot of questions, Michael casually pauses the TV, but the whole world stops with it. However, Michael does not notice this, only continues to answer her questions. Then he gets to work, but the dog gets in the way incredibly. And to Michael's surprise, turning down the volume works for the dog, too. It remains to go out for a walk, where Michael checks the rewind function. A new day comes and Donna's friend visits their house, but Michael doesn't care, because he has learned to bring the TV directly to his eyes, pretending that he listens intently to them. After breakfast, Michael returns to the store, as he thinks he's on a talk show where he's supposed to amuse the audience. But Morty makes it clear that everything is real here. You just need to press the menu button. Now Mike has a huge functionality opening up. And to begin with, he flies away to his distant childhood, where he and his family went on a picnic. There the father decided to show a trick with a coin. And although Michael pretends to be surprised, in fact, he perfectly understood what the catch was. She just didn't upset her father. Going out into the real world, Michael wants to understand who is standing in front of him, but receives a business card for the place of the answer. Arriving at work, he finds John in a rather awkward moment, but this does not prevent him from handing over the next task. Upon returning home, Michael notices Ben playing with a rude neighbor, which stops time and gets a little dirty. When he enters the house, the first thing he hears is that they are having dinner with Donna's parents. And no matter how he waves his arms, Donna is not worshipful. And since he's not interested, Michael uses fast forward, skipping the whole day. However, almost immediately another quarrel begins, and the remote control comes to the rescue again. In the dead of night, Michael remembers about the business card and dials the number. Morty turns up at his door just a second later, hitting the guy. Morty explains that when Michael uses rewind, he simply transfers his consciousness to the time he needs, while his physical shell lives an ordinary day. At the end of the conversation, Michael notices that he has a runny nose. It's time to rewind it, moving to bed. From that moment on, he rewinds everything he considers routine. Morning shower, commute to work, but when he sees something interesting, he slows down time. Arriving at work, John wonders if Mike has finished the project. Obviously, because of the constant rewinding, Michael doesn't know this, but he reaches into his bag anyway, and there's a ready-made plan waiting for him. And then John starts the main part of the meeting. But Michael gets bored, and he flattens John as he pleases. That evening, Japanese rich people came to their company, and since Mike does not know Japanese, he finds a language translation function in real time. It turns out that the Japanese are not particularly interested in this meeting, because the most important thing is the final proceeds, which is why as soon as everyone sat down at the table, he suggests a plan where everyone can get the money, surprising John while the Japanese happily beat each other. Thanks to this deal, Michael returns home with the gifts. Donnie tells me that she heard a song on the radio today that was playing on the day they met. But here's the problem. Michael has no idea what she's talking about, which is why he rewinds back many years. A new day comes and Michael, as always, comes to work. John reports that Michael still hasn't become a partner. Obviously, he doesn't like this news very much. And Michael immediately stops time by slapping him a couple of times. John wonders how his head could hurt so much in just a second. That evening, he visits Morty again, saying that he is thinking about rewinding time before his promotion. Morty only says one sentence. There was a leprechaun who spent his day searching for a pot of gold, but when he found it, there were only flakes inside. But Michael doesn't seem to understand what he means, which is why he starts rewinding time. After a whole year, Michael comes to his senses, and he thought that there were only a couple of weeks left before the promotion. But the eternal quarrels with Donna have not disappeared anywhere. And Michael speeds up time once again, moving straight to a family dinner. The children have become much bigger, and a new one has taken the place of the old dog. Michael asks where Sanderson is, and Don replies in the ground, bringing down Michael's tantrum. That night, he calls Morty again, who, as always, teleports out of nowhere. Morty claims that the remote has adjusted to Michael, and now it rewinds everything that Michael rewound before. Without thinking twice, he tries to get rid of the remote, but the remote comes back. A new day is coming, and Michael is trying his best not to notice things that can start rewinding, like showering, getting into a work uniform, or driving a car, thus surprising John because his employee came in a bathrobe. Michael explains this by saying that it doesn't matter what they're wearing, if their main goal is to improve this company. Hearing these words, John rips off his jacket along with his shirt. John adds that he wants to leave the post of director, and Michael should be his successor. This activates another rewind. After 10 years, Michael has changed quite a lot, but the remote didn't disappear. Not wanting to walk home, he just rewinds time on his own 2 feet. His son, who had also increased in size, was waiting for him at home. But his daughter was the exact opposite. Only Dawn hasn't changed much, except that she's dating Bill now. Not understanding what's going on here, Michael goes on the attack. Dawn gets involved in their scuffle, while the world stops again. Morty says once again that Michael can change his future. So Michael starts writing a note and a little massage, but as soon as time runs out, the dog causes critical damage. 6 years later, he regains consciousness, already being in the hospital. Donna reports that after the incident, doctors performed a CT scan, where they noticed a cancerous tumor in time and cut it out. After leaving the ward, he can't believe his eyes, his face is spinning almost everywhere. And his son has settled into his company. But what's more interesting is how did he manage to lose weight, to which he responds by training 3 times a week with Bill. Anyway, Michael suggests that the whole family gather for an evening dinner, including his father. But his son has bad news, his grandfather is gone, and Michael is bursting into tears. Standing on his grave, he tries to go back to the day he died. But Morty declares that he cannot do this, because his consciousness was rewinding time at that moment. But it still demonstrates the day when his father came to the office, with a request to arrange a meeting with Michael and his son. He even shows his trademark trick with a coin. But Michael orders them to get out, he doesn't have much time. Back at the cemetery, Morty introduces himself as the Angel of Death. Not understanding what's going on here, Michael just rewinds time, straight to his son's wedding, where he has a heart attack. When he comes to himself, he sees his children. Ben says he needs to leave for about a month. And since there was a wedding today, Michael assumes that it's because of the honeymoon. But Ben clarifies that this is for work. Hearing his words, Michael tries his best to dissuade his son, but he does not bow down, knowing full well that Ben is following in his footsteps. Michael gathers his strength and gets out of bed, simultaneously neutralizing the medics. Morty sees all this, saying that this equipment kept him alive. But Michael is not interested, he needs to talk to his son. Seeing the children, Michael rushes forward, but his heart fails. But Ben notices him. Michael spends his last moments asking him to put his family above any job, and just sends his regards to Bill. When suddenly Michael wakes up in a furniture store, he is very happy. That's why he's rushing home, because he has news, they're all going camping together. Morty hands over his remote once more, but Michael just throws it away. That's where the movie ends.